Thank you, Misha. Second story will be about categories endpoint. Umar will present that. I don't see him joined yet, but hopefully he will join very soon. And the last one, continuation of discussion about architecture of checkout and checkout schema for GraphQL, will be presented by Alex. So now, Alex, you can go ahead with the first item.
Sure. Hi guys. So this pull request was prepared by Yaroslav, and it is covering processing of directives in category description. We had similar task presented by Yaroslav last week. He implemented directive processing for product short description and product description, and this time he did it for categories. And I can just show you what exactly was implemented here. So we have new resolver, like for category HTML attributes. For now, there is just one attribute, but potentially, like it can be reused for other attributes. And what this resolver does is like fetches the category model, then field name, which is going to be resolved, and processes this field value using output helper that we already have in core. And after that, we declare this resolver in category schema. So you can see that this is category interface. And in description for the category interface, Yaroslav declared custom resolver. So it means that all fields for category will be resolved by category resolver, but description will have custom resolver, which will also process HTML directives. And basically that's it. Yaroslav also covered the changes with Web API GraphQL functional test. And here we create category, we add some directive to the category description, and after that, like here we add this directive, and after that we perform GraphQL query, and we are interested in description specifically in this test. And after that we assert that basically directive was processed, so that we don't have media URL, like which was part of directive, you see. So we assert that there is no media URL in description anymore, and we make sure that base URL is part of the description. So that's how you can write functional test for GraphQL. And also there are some limitations, like known limitations, and our architect for page builder right now is discussing this with Yaroslav in comments, but basically not all directives are processed for category attributes right now, and Yaroslav gives an example that, let's say, block directive is not processed right now, and this is limitation of current filter in the core. And after the discussion is done, we will probably have some resolution. We will either accept this limitation for now, or we will have to modify existing filter. So any questions for this one?
Just one comment from my side. This is very good that code change is covered with unit tests and API functional tests. API functional. So this is very important direction for us to have pull requests covered with tests, and we have special label test coverage, so it should be applied to this pull request as well. It indicates that the pull request will get additional points just for covering the changes with the test. That will be on you or on Valery.
Okay, thanks. So if no other questions for this one, then I will give screen back to Eugene and hopefully to Umar if he joins.
So I don't. Oh, Umar. Okay. You joined. So you wanted to discuss the endpoints for the categories, and if you can share your screen and talk about that, would be great.
Omar, you are muted so far.
Oh, hi guys. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, now we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. I'm sorry for the delay. My task was to create an endpoint for the categories. I'll just share my screen with you guys so I can show the work I have done so far. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So this is the new endpoint which I just created, and okay. All right. So it is something similar to product, and it contains two different like filters. One is search, and the other one is filters attribute. Filter attribute. I haven't completed it yet about the search filter. Uh, it is similar to the product search, and in the result you can see different things like items, name, description. And in case of what you can just place in the filters, I have shortlisted them, and I'll just show it to you. This is the GraphQL schema. Here is the endpoint. I have used search, filter, page size, and current page. These two all already have the default value 20 and 1. In the same way we are using for products endpoint, and in case of search, we are just inputting the string. In case of filter, I have defined a new type, and it is here. Up till now, I have included these things: name, description. These two is anchor level, and all is for using like multiple category filter inputs. So I'll just show you how I am implementing it. So this is the resolver class which is using it. It is exactly in the same hierarchy as we have the product here, resolver, and this is the category trees resolver class, right? So here, since we already have the categories, so I'm not using that. This is being used in products, I think. So someone mentioned in the comments that it is already being used. So I have like made the plural of category tree. In the category trees, I am building a search criteria for being used like filters and pagination and sorting. Now, when now if both of them are here in the same way we are using for products, either we need to must input the search field or the filter field. So if in case of search field, I'll just show it to you in later on. I will like focus on this one. In case of filter query, what I do is I go to this, and from this category data provider, I am getting the list of categories by giving it search criteria fields, and this is an additional field is search. I don't think so we need to use it right now, so I'm not doing anything with this. So in case of get list, what I am doing is I am making a collection of category, and this collection is being processed in this collection processor class. So I have defined this in two different classes. This is the composite class processor, and it basically has this same interface has two more classes. One is attribute processor and other is search criteria. Attribute processor just selects the attribute which we have just defined in the query. In the same way, search criteria is using the default search criteria interface of class of Magento, which is already there, like this one. So I'll be using this. So for now, my filters are not being like worked. So I'll just show you uh, with using the debugger. Just hold on a second. Sorry for the delay. My debugger is slow. Yeah. So it's here. This build the search criteria. We just use the category name here, field get name, and this is representing to the category endpoint, categories endpoint. And here we are setting the current page in the search criteria. And in the same way, page size, it is 20 by default. And now I'll go to this layer. This is like getting the result of all the matched categories. Here are the item results. And in the item results, I'm just looping over all the items and so saving them in the array. Here we need to apply the filter. Yes, I'll just bypass this one. All right, so I want to show about the filter, and I'm facing some issues in that one as well. So basically, I'll just go through that flow. So so if we go to di.xml, you can see this is the search criteria applier. I have just seen that someone has used this virtual type for the collection processing. And if I go here in the catalog, this one. So are you guys with me? Hello?
Yes.
All right. So this is the virtual type used, and here what we do is we like redefine this type to use this model API search criteria. So what I was missing is I'm not having any collection processor for categories. So I think we need to create that in the catalog module, and then in that case we are going to use the default Magento filter. Right now it is using the right now it is using the product filter processor from the API framework /API class. So what we need to do is we need to implement the category collection processor for in the catalog module, or if you have something better, then you can suggest me that as well. I just need to use this product like this. I just need to use this collection processor. Right now, it is not using this one.
So you are injecting a new processor instead of that one?
Sorry?
Your goal is to inject a different processor for this collection, or your goal is to use default one?
Yeah, my goal is to create a new virtual type like someone has defined here, like in search criteria applier. Someone has defined this collection processor, and this is just a virtual type in the catalog module at this place. And they have injected the filters from this class. So I think we need to create a new filter class for the category as well. So we need to redefine something in this di.xml. So is it something within the scope, or should I do it in the catalog GraphQL module?
Yeah, for me it's interesting question, is it really worth introduction of new processor, or there is a default one in the category collection already? But if it is, then probably worth doing this task.
All right.
So, Kumar, did you have a chance to look?
The goal of doing so is because it is not available right now in case of category collection. So this is the use case because we don't have this thing yet, because the existing endpoint was this one, and we were able to only define the category field, sorry, ID field here, and then we can just define that ID, and it gives you the list. So it gives you the category tree in results. So if I can just like if I show you.
So I would suggest you to push this code somewhere so that we can start working on that with you, because I think here are a couple questions. Is this the best way to filter the collection? And is there a default filter in the core already?
Yeah, actually, if you can create pull request and mark it somehow like in progress, then we can continue discussion in pull request, and we can discuss any questions that you have as well there. It is usually
so
how we do it.
think, yeah, I think that would be better way.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for presentation and thanks for working on that.
Yeah, actually, I would like to mention also that probably we don't need to introduce categories resolver or categories tree resolver, and instead I would suggest to move categories resolver under product because it is used from products endpoint, and then just create categories resolver, not categories tree but categories. And also category tree resolver becomes irrelevant if we do these changes, because category tree resolver is currently used for endpoint which you're modifying.
All right. So
or at least actually I was expecting that we will modify existing one, not introduce new one. So I see that you still keep category resolver, but we probably need to remove that one, category field, I mean, and replace it with this categories one, which you introduced. So we can discuss it. We can discuss all this in comments for pull request. Like if you create pull request.
all right, I'll make a pull request. By the way, I am just naming it category trees because my end goal is to return the list of category trees. So that's why I use this one. So
yeah, that's right. But we can think about naming in pull request comments.
Okay. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, and just in general, it's a good idea to always create pull request early so that you have some prototype. We can iterate through the prototype and you will see the feedback earlier instead of working a lot of like deep into implementation before you get first feedback.
Yeah, especially on the tasks which are not completely clear and larger ones like this one.
Yeah, perfect. So I'll just finish my my work, like working on the filters, and then we can refactor the code later on.
Sounds good.
All right. So that was the
Okay.
nothing from my side for today.
Perfect, thank you. So that's it about category endpoint. The next item in our agenda is checkout schema, and Alex should present like next steps with defining that.
Okay, so basically during this sprint, I continued my work on defining schema for checkout for different aspects of checkout. And just as a reminder, maybe I will just open it in PHP Storm, but as a reminder, we have already covered on previous meeting add items to cart schema, so I will not probably go through that again, but I will cover what is new in like after our previous meeting. So first of all, I would like to mention that we have a decision on asynchronous server-side mutations, and the decision currently is that we are not introducing them at the moment because it is not non-standard way for GraphQL, and it may be difficult for clients because client libraries are not supporting this, and you may have to implement some custom logic if you want to basically implement integration with asynchronous endpoints. And for some specific merchants which need this because of high load or for some other reasons, it is possible that we introduce it later on framework level like we did for REST. So when you have, I can just explain how it is done in REST, and we can think about like how to do it in similar way for GraphQL. In REST, it is basically special layer on Web API in Web API module, which exposes most of mutation operations like post and delete and put. So it exposes those operations as asynchronous. So it generates custom schema for them because obviously response type changes for the operation. Like instead of getting regular, let's say when you create a product, instead of getting product record in response, in synchronous REST, you're getting operation ID, and then you can use that ID to get the actual response when the request is processed asynchronously using message queue. So similar approach can be used here. So for now we defer this, and we assume that majority of the clients will not need asynchronous server-side endpoints. So this is one decision which we made, I believe, since previous meeting. Also, I posted a link to proposal in our GraphQL Slack channel, and the proposal is basically introduce wrappers for all inputs and for all arguments and for all output types. And this is like the main reason for this is because we cannot extend list of arguments from third-party extension, and the schema stitching mechanism doesn't merge them like it does types and input types and all other like enums. And for output, there is like some issue, like if you just specify output as a string here, like in this example, it's a generate custom token, and then you have like two arguments, email, password, and in response you are supposed to get a string. So if you do that, there is no way for extension, third-party extension, or even us to extend the schema or modify the schema of output. And basically, this is like another issue with extensibility that we have right now.
So do you propose to create wrappers for every simple type?
Yeah, so we will go like next and see. So basically, there is also no way to introduce breaking changes, and the reason is we cannot just deprecate something. There is no way to deprecate like this argument and change it for something else. And same for this output type, and same for arguments. So the solution is to create wrappers for all outputs and inputs, and in this case it will look like this. So let's say instead of just saying output type is string, you say output type is operation name plus output suffix, and then inside you have, let's say, token. And for input, it will be the same. So input will be just one argument called input, and the type will be operation like query or mutation name plus input, and you list all arguments as fields here. So in this case, you can deprecate, extend, and customize list of arguments and output as you would any other type. And we already support extensibility for types and inputs. So an example could be like for this specific, this is obviously like fake example, but still, let's say you want to introduce additional like multi-factor authentication token in addition to email and password. And in our original implementation, it is not possible. With wrappers, you just declare this new field. It is eventually merged to the original type, and then you have to create some custom resolver, or you can create plugins if you want on existing resolvers. But for this field, like, you need to create resolver problem. And for output, let's say you want now to say to notify client about time to leave for the token. And again, in the original implementation, when you have just string as output type, it's not possible. But if you create wrapper in advance, it will be possible to extend schema. And this TTL will be generated by, again, plugin or custom resolver. So there is also one open question. So basically, we have difficulty with types, with introducing wrapper types for operations which don't have arguments at the moment. And the reason is because GraphQL does not support empty types. So you cannot declare empty type without any fields, just for future extensibility purposes. And so far, I don't know how to bypass this. So we can do this for all output types because all our queries and mutations are synchronous, and that's why there is output type anyway. But some operations obviously don't accept any arguments at the moment, and it might be a problem. So if you have any ideas for that, you're welcome. And after we resolve like this open question, here are two action items which I propose. So basically, we need to go and change schema for all existing queries and mutations. And by the way, for queries, the wrapper type name will probably include suffix like query input. So if you have product query, we don't want to have input to be called like products input. Or let's say if you have cart query, we don't want it to be cart input because it may be confusing for other like operations. If you have mutations, then it may be confusing, and that's why I believe it's. But I have not mentioned it in the proposal yet, but I just thought about it yesterday. So it probably makes sense to for queries have suffix like query input, and it will be like cart query input. And if you have cart mutation, it will be just, let's say, cart input. So the action item is to go and modify schema for all existing queries and mutations, and also document this somewhere and make sure that for all new contributions we follow this. So it should not be significant amount of work, but still we need to agree on this first, and then if we agree, then somebody will have to go and modify schema. It should be more or less like trivial modification. So any questions for now?
Yeah, so regarding agreement, how do you propose to get feedback and votes for it?
So first of all, this is currently open for discussion, and it is part of Magento architecture repository, which is our new repository, public repository for discussing any architectural proposals. And you can find this pull request. It's called like initial draft for, and basically I referenced it in our GraphQL Slack channel as well. So feel free to go here and comment. And actually, we already have quite a good discussion here. Actually, let me show it here. So we have quite a good discussion like on different items. And for now, I have just single proposal for all checkout related schema pieces, like for adding products to cart, and then basically all checkout related schema is supposed to be in this proposal. And I believe, like, if you guys are interested, if you have some understanding and maybe experience with working with cart APIs, please join and give your feedback. So as soon as we discuss it here, we can run votes for some like controversial items separately. But so far, I haven't received any feedback regarding like this specific proposal.
Yeah, I would suggest you to put those questions and link to proposal and description on how to participate to the GraphQL Slack, so that we can start advertising that and ask for.
Yeah. So actually, as soon as I create, let's say, one section of the document, I posted link to GraphQL channel. So and I'm planning to continue doing that. So as soon as I have like some meaningful piece ready for discussion, then I post it separately. Because obviously you can go and try to review like the whole document or the whole pull request, but it makes sense to review it even in pieces, and that's why I post it like in pieces.
Cool. And you guys also can join architectural discussions. It happens, I think, once per 2 weeks on Wednesdays, and the next one will be next Wednesday.
Okay, yeah, and this is like, do you have any questions regarding this specific part, like input-output wrappers? Okay, so hopefully you guys can hear us. So if no questions, then I will move on to the next one, but you are welcome to go and read through it and give your feedback. And especially if you have any ideas for these open questions, this would be like extremely valuable if you participate. So then I have also a couple pieces for cart. One complex piece is related to cart prices. And the main challenge is how do we organize our schema for prices in the way that you get all data that you might need in all possible scenarios in checkout, like storefront checkout, but at the same time, we don't want to expose any sensitive data here. And so far, we are going to include basically this like prices field into cart itself, and it will have prices relevant for the whole order or for the whole cart. It can have, let's say, all taxes applied to the cart. It can have, let's say, totals for the whole cart, discounts applied for the whole cart. Then we have another level of granularity for like cart, actually maybe like cart address is the next level. And this one has already information about shipping, like shipping price, and why it is separated from the cart, because we have multi-shipping functionality, and that's why you might potentially have different items in the cart to be shipped like into different addresses, and different taxes can be applied obviously to different shipping addresses, and yeah, so basically this is why like you have this separation. So you can get prices relevant to shipping, for example, as soon as you have address. If you don't have address set yet, then you will not be able to get them, and they are not available as part of the cart price API. And basically, these prices are similar, but we will look at them later, but there's still like a little bit of difference with them. And the next level is cart items. So let's say if you want to display some prices for line item, like cart item, then you can get some prices for item as well. And it may be useful to understand, let's say, how taxes or discounts were split between cart items. Because let's say if you have a cart price rule which is applied for the whole cart, you need to also understand how this affected like specific line item. And you might display this, you might not. In default Luma theme, such information is not displayed. Usually you get just, let's say, product price over there. You can get it like including tax, excluding tax, depending on store preferences. And you also get line item price. Basically, this is product price multiplied by quantity of items. So now let's look at this interface, which is generic for all of these three different prices. And this one has so far, so this is like working working draft. So if you have any suggestions, please again give your feedback. But you have like cart prices interface, and you should be able to see total for the cart, for specific address that you're shipping to, or for an item. And then you should be able to see like subtotals, subtotals with discounts. You can see applied taxes and applied discounts. Then you have basically cart prices do not add any extra information about prices. So on cart level, this is this is all what you get. On cart address level, you get additional information about shipping prices, shipping discounts, and on cart item, you get product price information, which is not available on other levels. And you can also get custom price. And probably you can also get tier price, but it is discussable. I'm not sure if you need to display it. And then we also have cart tax item, which is just amount and label. So basically, what it means, if you want, for example, to show applied taxes for the cart, you will get an array of these cart tax items, and you will be able to iterate through it and say, let's say, V tax, which is like recycling tax in European Union, you can give label like specific V tax, because there could be different V taxes, and there could be multiple for a specific item. And you just say what is the amount of that tax, or you just say just regular sales tax, and you give label sales tax, and you give amount for the tax. I'm sorry, so this was about taxes, but for discounts, it is the same. You can just list all discounts which were applied, let's say for a specific item in the cart, and this can include cart level discounts, and this can include specific item discounts. And it can be like coupon based, or it can be just buy items for $200 and get like 10% discount. So it can be just cart price rule based on specific conditions not related to coupons. And all of them should be displayed here. So any questions so far for this one? Guys, can you still hear us?
They can.
Okay. So then, like again, you are welcome to participate in the discussion because this is pretty complex one, and would be ideal if we get some feedback. And I believe I have not seen any feedback for this one yet. So the next one is, again, this is initial draft. It's not complete yet, but at least something is already outlined here. So this is what we get to cart interface apart from items and prices and coupons. So we basically can have like cart query, and again we will have like special input. So I already used this wrapper proposal here. So basically we have cart query, type name is cart query input, and then we have output. So basically you have to provide cart ID as an input, and it is required for both guests and customers. For customer, it may seem to be redundant because you can potentially, or you can like get cart ID from your authentication token. But again, this is discussable if you guys feel that we don't need to have it here or to make it optional. So another option was to make this one optional and basically, if you can get this card ID from your authentication token, then we say, okay, it's fine, work. And let's say if you send guest request, obviously you don't have authentication token, we don't know who you are, we cannot identify your card ID. In this case, you will just throw exception saying, hey, we cannot identify your card ID, please provide it explicitly. So these are like two options. So far, I believe this one is better because it is more straightforward for guests, and for customers, you are supposed to have your card ID anyway after you create your card, and I believe it shouldn't be a problem to inject it here programmatically with each request for card query or for any other queries. And by the way, why it is optional for customers? Because customer might have only one active card at a time. So if you, let's say, create a new card, your old card is abandoned, and I don't think you can even access it from storefront. It is still somewhere in database, but it is basically not accessible. So the proposal for card is to have, like in response, to have card ID, a list of addresses, also line items count, which is number of line items, and then second quantity for items. This one, let's say if you have 2 items of same kind, and then second item just one quantity, so you will have 2 line items, but total quantity of all items in the cart will be like 3. And it is also flowed because in Magento for specific products you can enable decimal quantity, and that's why this field is flowed, and this one is just number of line items, that's why it's integer. Also, we need selected payment method and selected shipping method. So I have not added it here, but yeah, we need selected shipping method as well. And selected shipping method will be just like code and label. So far, I don't think we need anything else, but any ideas are welcome. And for selected payment methods, it's same, like just payment method code and label, which you can display for selected method. Actually, selected shipping, sorry, so selected shipping method is already here. So because shipping method is relevant for specific addresses, because you might have this multi-shipping functionality. So it's not supposed to be on the card.
Hi, Alex. Sorry for interrupting you. How in GraphQL is planned to get the list of possible shipping options and payment methods? It maybe makes sense to have included them in cart.
You mean to provide list of available options?
Yes.
Okay, for now it was supposed to be separate query, but yeah, I will definitely think about this.
Yeah, just from our experience with payment request API, those values like available payment methods and available shipping options related to some card details like addresses and so on. They depend from other values on the card, so it probably makes sense to have the whole list of available options and selected some of them with selected Boolean value. So it's like additional one of the options. But probably the additional API method or data type would be also a possible solution.
Okay, yeah, thanks for feedback. It's a good proposal. And if you don't mind, could you please just leave a comment on that architectural pull request so we can just discuss it and check it there easier?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I believe it's a good point. It can save basically some extra requests, or in case of GraphQL, you can combine requests, but it may be just more convenient to provide this information as part of, let's say, address, because for now the plan was to provide this, let's say, shipping method estimator, which will request you to provide the whole address. But if you already have address as part of quote or card, You already have this information, and I believe it may be just easier for integrator. I believe Vladimir is right. Okay, so if no other questions for this item, and there is one more, is for cards. I believe we haven't discussed it yet. And the proposal is to have apply coupon to card and remove coupon from card. In Magento, you can have only one coupon applied to a card at a time. So that's why like coupon code is just a string, and it's not like an array, for example, in response. Like where is it? Like here, like applied coupon, and it's just a string. And this one is pretty simple. So you can either say, here is my coupon, please apply it, or you can say, like remove coupon. So, or you can say, I don't want any coupons to be applied to my card anymore. So just remove applied coupon from specified card. And in response for both cases, you get card object, and if you need to, you can get some fields from card object. Yeah, so basically that's it. So any questions for this one? Okay, so I believe that's it from my side. And again, feel free to participate in these discussions. If you have any feedback, leave it in pull request on GitHub. And current plan is that I will work on additional clarification and adding new items for the schema. So basically, the goal is to get schema for checkout finalized, and then we will basically merge this to proposal, and then we'll be able to create all coverage tasks like for mutations and queries for card. We already have some of them, by the way. Maybe I'll give you update on this, because we moved a bunch of tasks to ready to start. And you should be able to pick them up. So on previous meeting, I believe we had around like 5 issues ready to start. But right now we have a bunch of them, and I believe we still have some time. Jen, were there any other items? If
No,
then,
no items.
Yeah, so then I will probably just go over all the items that we have, like briefly. And just for visibility, so if anybody is interested in a specific one, you guys can work on them. So this one is for coverage for adding configurable products to cart. It is based on schema which we have already discussed on previous meeting. This one is for like adding bundled items. And just to clarify, so this is part of the schemas we have already discussed, and those mutations are supposed to be based on those schemas. Even though they are not completely approved yet, I believe we still have like pretty good understanding on the main points. Let's say how we split endpoints. There might still be some modifications to specific fields, but in general, the schema should not change much. Then there is task for adding the notable products, grouped products, virtual products. Then there is open like feature request / bug, because like some people expected it to be working already, but we don't have variable support, like complex variable support. You can use simple variables, like simple types in variables, but if you try to use complex variables complex types in variables, the framework gives some error, and basically it just doesn't work. So if somebody needs this functionality, feel free to contribute. Then coupon operations based on schema which I just showed you. It should be again pretty trivial task, because we just need to declare new GraphQL schema, create a new resolver, and resolver is supposed to invoke existing service contract. So all this logic is proxied to service contract. Okay, so rendered content for category. I believe this is the one which Yaroslav is working on. Probably we need to take it in progress. But yeah, we'll check it later. And then test framework documentation. This is just to go to our dev docs and document our GraphQL testing framework. So if somebody is interested, feel free. This one is for configuring our GraphQL tests on Travis, and this would be useful because you guys work on this like public pull requests, and GraphQL tests, I believe, are not currently executed on Travis, and it means that you cannot get instant feedback for your work. And how it works right now, like we start accepting your pull request, and we run all kinds of tests that we have internally on our infrastructure, including GraphQL tests. But since like this is GraphQL project, it will be perfect if contributors can get quick feedback on the changes that they do. This one is, I believe, about arrays. Like if you have partial response and you have, let's say, null. Sure, let's take a look here. So if you have null in response, you can still do that, but like it's part of the array. So you can see that you have like array of items in response, and one item was successfully retrieved and second item was not retrieved. And this is confusing. Like we should not have null value, and we also need to add error message. I believe error message is already added, but we should not have null value here, because when you just from client side try to iterate over this array, it is confusing for you that you are getting this null. This one is for change password mutation. Actually, it's described here, but it should be similar to what we already have in our REST API. So not much to discuss here. This one is a bug which was reported like a week ago, and this one is about displaying active categories only. So right now we display all categories even though they're disabled, let's say here, and yeah, I believe we discussed it on our previous sync up. Category 3 unable to handle fragments. So this might be some bug in one of resolvers. And by the way, these bugs are pretty difficult to spot immediately because GraphQL is extremely flexible and you can specify all kinds of variations for your queries. And as soon as you not test specific variation, it's possible that there will be like non-working query. Especially for now, because we don't have like real clients and obviously we don't have a lot of feedback. So as soon as somebody is starting to use our queries, people start finding like issues. And yeah, this is one of those. So it's like specific use case when you try to use fragments on category 3, it doesn't work. I believe it makes sense to postpone this one a little bit, or do it maybe after Umar is done with his task, because it is for the same API. And I believe
we have 3 minutes left. Okay, that's it. Sounds good. So guys, I think that's it for today. All your questions are welcome in the chat, and let's meet next week. I hope we'll get more updates about our progress. And as I said, Valery back from vacation, so feel free to ping him about questions, how to implement different stuff, and the status of the pull request. Thank you, and see you next week.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.